Welcome to the first episode of the Build and Scale Boldly podcast. I'm your host, Letizia Alto, and I am so excited to have you here at our first ever podcast. So, what's this podcast about? Well, this podcast is a space for you if you are a purpose-driven female entrepreneur and you're ready to build and scale your business boldly and grow it so that you have a business you love and a life you love. One with more profits, of course, more freedom, which is time freedom and financial freedom, and more ease than you ever thought possible. At this podcast, and I believe something very, very deeply, which is more successful female entrepreneurs change the world in a very meaningful and significant way. And so my goal and the goal of Biara and this podcast is to help create and help you become even more successful than you already are so that you have the wealth and you have the greater impact so you can change the world, because women entrepreneurs make such a difference. And why this whole podcast and business also came to be was really to help create more successful business owners who are females, because right now, although 40% of businesses in the US are run by women, only 6% of the revenues are in those businesses, and only 2% of VC funding are given to those businesses. And so the goal of this podcast is to be able to help create even more successful female entrepreneurs who have a bigger share of that revenue and who are out there impacting even more people. So I wanted to start out by telling you a little bit about my entrepreneurial journey. So my name is Letizia Alto. I am a physician, also a real estate investor, and a business owner. And I've been a serial entrepreneur since 2012 and have had actually 6 multi-million-dollar businesses that I've been involved in growing and building. And all of this really started out not from me wanting to be an entrepreneur, but just being exposed to entrepreneurship and kind of jumping in and kind of contributing, lending a hand is how it started out, with me helping my husband in one of his businesses. But over time, I started to take leadership roles in business and started to realize what an incredible vehicle business ownership is for really reaching your own potential and seeing what you're capable of being, and also the creativity and all those other pieces that I was missing, quite frankly, in just being a doctor. So I found being a doctor and business ownership to be such a really great combination that allowed for me to grow in many different ways through the business ownership, and ultimately to be able to have both in my life. Because this is not about being only a business owner. Some of you are going to have W-2 jobs or 1099 jobs and also have a business. And so we want to make space for both of those. So there were some big leap moments in my entrepreneurial journey. I would say actually the biggest one was starting Semi-Retired MD, which some of you guys are familiar with, I'm sure. And this was a business that was started back in 2019. And within a couple years actually became a multi-million-dollar business. And what's so cool about that kind of growth is it really forces you to grow as an entrepreneur. One of my mentors says the chokehold of every business is generally, most often, the psychology of the owner. And so for your business to grow and for your business to get into the next stage of the business growth, you really have to grow as an individual. And so when I created Semi-Retired MD with my husband, there was a lot of growing that I needed to do, a lot of limiting beliefs that I needed to get rid of, and a lot of fear. And that is a really normal part of any entrepreneurial journey, is fear. And so I had a lot of fears that I had to overcome in order to grow the business, in order to build a team, in order to do all those things that needed to be done for a multi-million-dollar business. And that's part of what we're going to be talking about here on the podcast, is like, how do you go through those steps? How do you build a team? How do you get good at finances? How do you learn how to market? How do you think about your ICA, your messaging, all those pieces that are really necessary to grow a successful business? Those are things that I have learned over the years being involved in these 6 multi-million-dollar businesses, but also in going out and doing a lot of working with mentors, working with coaches, a lot of reading. You guys are going to probably hear me mention books all the time on this podcast. And so those are the types of things that I will be sharing in this podcast when I do my solo episodes. The goal of this podcast is really to bring together women where there's some authentic authentic conversations where we are talking about scaling, we're talking about impact, we're talking about leading with your heart, we're talking about dreaming without limits, right? And pushing yourself and becoming what you must become over time to grow the business of your dreams. And this is a space which is really going to be a place where we celebrate ambition, where we celebrate dreaming big, where we celebrate acting boldly, even in the face of fear, which is, again, a normal part of any business journey. Even starting Biara, which is my 7th business, right? That there is still a lot of fear and there's still a lot of growth that happens every time that you try something new. And so just understand that this is part of a process that is always happening. And it's happening at the beginning of a business, it's happening in the middle, it's happening even when you're going to exit a business. There's always a lot of growth. And so this podcast is about dreaming big, it's about that growth, and it's about helping you along your journey, whether you're just thinking about starting your business or you're already 5 years in, or you're scaling from 7 figures to 8 figures, wherever you are in your journey. The goal of this podcast is really to bring you those conversations that are going to help elevate your business, help elevate you, elevate your mindset. And these are not just conversations that are going to involve me. They're going to involve lots of other successful female entrepreneurs who are doing things differently and stepping out of the box and, leveling up and reaching their potential. And so there'll be some incredible guests. And all of this, the goal is to give you actionable insights and authentic conversations, not fake conversations where we go shallow, but actually conversations where we go quite deep. Now, the goal of this podcast is also to create a space where you can face those fears, where we can talk openly about those fears, where we can be transparent, but also you can act boldly more often. And what does it mean to act boldly? Act boldly means when there's fear in front of you and you know it's the right thing to do, you move forward anyway. And you do so with boldness and confidence, right? You don't do so timidly. You almost, I don't want to say burn the boats, but you say to yourself, okay, I'm moving forward here, and I'm moving forward here with confidence. And it's an inner confidence that you develop and you grow. It doesn't have to be confidence from, hey, I've already done this before. It's actually an inner confidence of resourcefulness. I can figure this out. No matter what's going to happen, I'm going to find a way. That's the inner confidence. That's its inner boldness that you can cultivate over time that allows you to move forward, even if you've never been in the situation before, even if you've never faced the problem before, you can move forward. So what can you expect from this podcast? Well, like I mentioned, you can expect to get actionable strategies that are proven frameworks, because I'm going to be bringing in some amazing guests who are going to be talking about things that they've actually done before and what worked and what didn't. You're also going to get solo episodes from me where I'm going to be talking about my own business experience, what I've learned along the journey. You're going to get these great authentic guest conversations where we ask those difficult questions, where we ask what didn't work, where we ask what the learning points were, and where we really sit down almost like we're drinking coffee, right? And just have a real, honest, raw conversation about life, because business is life as well. And your personal life, what's going on with you outside of your business, also impacts your business. I would say that you're going to get the range of conversations from successful female entrepreneurs, both in business and then also discussing some of their life challenges and their life situations and how those impacted the business. We're going to be talking about mindset, because I really believe it's such an important part of success in business and in growing your business and in leading teams and in leading yourself. It's all about mindset. So we'll be talking about mindset a lot. We'll be talking about systems and processes, because the price of entrepreneurial success, the price of entrepreneurial freedom is systems, processes, and leverage. And leverage is people, right? Is getting people, leading people, finding the right people. That's going to be a really important part of this. We're going to talk about scaling. We're talking about growing your impact, how to grow your business to grow your impact and affect more human lives. Because a lot of people who listen to this podcast are going to be purpose-driven entrepreneurs who really care about their business, who care about what it's doing in the world, and are driven by something much larger than themselves, driven by making a difference to a community that they really, really care about. And then we'll be talking about legacy, right? We'll be talking about being thoughtful and intentional with what you're passing to your children, with what you're passing to the world and your community that you're contributing to in your service. We're going to have some occasional Q&As where I answer questions. We're going to do some behind the scenes. And again, we're going to be just vulnerable. We're going to be real. We're going to be honest, and we're going to be transparent in this podcast. So what's the structure of the show? Well, we're going to be talking to you bi-weekly, and we're going to be largely kind of following this framework called the B.O.L.D framework. And it's actually 4 steps. The B is build, and that's really about foundation. And a lot of it is about what you do to build your foundation of your clients, your community, your ICA, your marketing messaging, all of those pieces. That's going to be under B. O is operate, and that's about operations. How do you run the systems of your business? How do you run the processes? How are you thinking about using structures, automation, elimination? What are the things that you can do to make your business run more smoothly, more hands-off, so that you don't have to be in the weeds all the time? So you're not being an operator, you're moving more and more to be an owner of your business. The L stands for lead, and that's about leading yourself and also leading others. And we'll be talking about team. We're going to be talking about hiring. We're going to be talking about managing. We'll be talking about culture, all those really important fundamental pieces that you absolutely need to really master in your business to make it be able to be scaled and make it really a beautiful place to work so you attract the best talent. Then finally, the D stands for dream, right? And that's about dreaming about the future, visioning your mindset, and just looking forward to how you want to create impact in the world and how you want to leave your legacy. So the B.O.L.D framework is B.O.L.D, build, operate, lead, and dream. And so a lot of these episodes are going to be really focused, especially the independent episodes that I do are going to be focused in these different areas. So who am I going to be inviting to speak on this podcast? Well, I mentioned women who have real businesses with real impact. They've walked the talk. This is not about theory. This is about what actually works in practice. And sometimes you got to screw up a lot to figure out what works in practice. And so we're going to be talking to these real business owners who have gone through things, who have had challenges, who have had problems that they've faced, who've continually increased their threshold of control and been able to handle more and more things. And we'll be talking about their experiences and what they've learned and what challenges they've faced. And we're asking them to do it in a really unfiltered way where they actually share what happened, and in a hopes that it's really going to help all of you who are struggling with the same thing to be able to work your way through what you're going through. We're going to have founders, we're going to have thought leaders, we're going to have visionaries, we're going to have people who are good at managing, because we all have things to learn from those types of people who have walked the walk, who are in the trenches doing this work. And finally, I'm looking for purpose-driven women, who really care about impact, who care about their community that they're serving, and who are doing this for something far greater than themselves. And I really want this to feel like a two-way conversation, not between me and my guests, but actually between me and you. I want this to not just be me talking at you. I actually want to hear from all of you, and to have this be an iterative process so that over time, this podcast serves you in the ways that you need with the problems that you are dealing with, and we're able to invite the right people and to modify our content to be able to really address those things that you guys need at the moment. And so I invite you to be able to DM me anytime on Instagram, email me. We actually have a hello@biara.com email where you can email us any single time. You can make requests for what you'd like me to talk about on this podcast, maybe guests you would like to come in. And of course, please leave a review when you have a chance about this podcast, the Build and Scale Boldly podcast, so other female entrepreneurs can find it, so that they can see and gain the insights and gain the actionable strategies and mindset work and all the things we're going to be teaching you through the B.O.L.D strategy. And again, send your questions to hello@biara.com if you want to be able to give us some suggestions for what you want to listen to, or feedback, or even just tell us about what you're up to, right? That would be an incredible thing, is to hear about what you're doing with your business and what's working and maybe what's not working. Now, one of the things I'm going to be asking on a lot of these podcasts is what I'm calling the B.O.L.D reflection question. And what it is a question that says, think of a time you acted boldly in your business in the face of uncertainty or fear. When was it, and what did you learn from it? And so this first episode, I wanted to ask you that, right? Sit here for a few minutes and think about a time you acted boldly in your business. in the face of uncertainty, in the face of fear. And when did this happen? And what did you learn from this experience? And if you do this reflection where you think about it, maybe even consider sharing it with us at hello@bri.com. We'd love to hear from you. Or you could share it in a review, right? You could talk about a time that you experienced this fear, uncertainty, because it is a normal part of being an entrepreneur is to feel that way, and how you kind of moved through it. So if this episode spoke to you, it would mean the world to me if you would subscribe to it, leave us a review, share it with any of your female entrepreneur friends who are purpose-driven, who are looking to build and scale boldly, who want to learn more about mindset or about hiring or about anything else that I covered in the BOLD framework. And finally, welcome to the Build and Scale Boldly community. Your dreams really matter. What you're doing in the world really matters. When we have more female entrepreneurs who are successful, who are having more impact, and that's really what success means to me in business, is you're having greater impact, you're helping more people, you're helping more of your community, then that changes the world in a really meaningful way. So let's help more women entrepreneurs grow their businesses, scale their businesses, be able to have greater impact in the world. Your voice and what you're doing absolutely matters as a female entrepreneur, and I'm here to support you all along the way. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next episode.